I believe that we are inherently born for use of violence.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new champion. It is over. The new champion. Champion of the world.
The California State Athletic Commission will announce today that the heavyweight has tested positive for steroids and will not be licensed to fight in the state.
Josh Barnett tested positive 3 times, and this guy denies it every time.
You know, if he wants, I can come pee in his mouth, and he can tell me if he can taste any Dianabol on it.
I'm not a big Josh Barnett fan. I think he's bad for the sport. All the shit that comes out of his mouth is stupid.
There's no way I'm going to take guilt and fault for this. This is ridiculous. I lost 18 months of my entire career from USADA trying to fuck me over.
Josh was a victim and Josh was innocent.
If you enjoy stories about legendary fighters, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Now let's step into the world of Josh Barnett. Born on November 10th, 1977 in Seattle, Washington.
I grew up in Seattle, Washington, in a little area called Ballard.
Josh Barnett grew up fiery and restless.
I was a jock/nerd. If it wasn't athletics, then it was video games or comic books.
Quick-tempered and aggressive.
Is it true you were in anger management classes when you were younger?
Yes. Being really young, you don't really understand how to deal with certain situations. You gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them.
He often got into fights as a teenager.
I was born with a love for combat. I wasn't a bully and I didn't look for fights, but I sure loved being in them.
I would get specifically and uniquely punished over it by all the administration.
Until sports gave him an outlet.
By the time I get to high school, it's playing sports. That was my thing that I really loved because it was mine and I could do it and I didn't have to deal with a lot of the other things, the rest of the social things of life.
At Ballard High School, he excelled in football but found his true focus on the wrestling mat, where discipline turned his raw aggression into skill.
I wrestled in high school and I did freestyle Greco in the summertime, which is how we divide wrestling, amateur wrestling up here in the state.
Around this time, he discovered the UFC watching the early tournaments, especially UFC 2, and decided he wanted to fight.
I saw a UFC sophomore year of high school, which would be 1994. It was UFC 2. Something about it registered immediately with me, and my thought was, I don't know how and I don't know where or what it's going to take to get involved in this, but I'm going to do this one day.
Barnett threw himself into martial arts training.
When I was a teenager, 17, 18, and 19 years old, learning Muay Thai basics from a security guard at Ballard High School, even goofing around with my friends, hitting pads, not obviously knowing hardly anything.
He studied judo, kickboxing, and even cleaned mats in exchange for karate lessons under Sensei Jim Harrison.
Jim Harrison was an old school American. He was so instrumental to me as an athlete. He's very knowledgeable. He just knew how to fight and he knew how to harness a fighter's mentality.
Back on the West Coast, he found his calling in catch wrestling.
How did you get into catch? I got into catch basically through Matt Hume.
Watching Shuto and Pancrase and UWF stuff.
The term itself comes from Wigan, England. Catch as catch can. Like get him any way you can.
Learning under Billy Robinson and training alongside Eric Paulson and Matt Hume.
Did you work with Matt Hume?
He was my first professional fight coach. I was with Matt Hume, well, from 1997 until about 2005.
I really understood what catch was as I started training under Matt Hume and then training under Billy Robinson and understanding what the lineage elements was. Tapping into that understanding just opened up a whole new other way of viewing it. It also then became that much more important for me to put it out in the world.
The actual birth of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is amazing because you could trace it. Yes. It started as catch. Started as judo. Started judo and catch wrestling.
That gritty grappling style would shape the fighter he became. By 20, Josh Barnett was no longer just a hot-headed kid from Seattle. He was ready to test himself as a professional fighter.
My first fight was 19 years old. This was 1996. One of my wrestling coaches called me up. He goes, hey, I know you've been training. I know you're into this. There's an opening to fight this guy, Chris Charnos. So it was 11 days. I go, all right, pro, yeah? Yeah, okay. All right, 11 days. I'll be there. I'm like, well, yeah, cool. I want to fight. That's it.
Barnett made his professional debut in 1997. Fighting for the United Full Contact Federation, he won by rear naked choke.
So I get in the ring, I fight Chris, I choke him unconscious in like 2 minutes, and Matt gets in the ring and he goes, hey, we'd love to have you come back in the summer and fight again. All right, I'll be here.
Then built an unbeaten 5-0 record on the regional circuit. His breakout came in Hawaii, where he entered a one-night Super Brawl tournament.
Super Brawl was throwing a heavyweight tournament to see who would be the next big rising star.
In a single evening, Barnett defeated 3 opponents.
So I go out there and I fight 3 fights in one night. I beat the world's strongest man, 230 pounds and under, from Finland. I beat John Marsh, who was the neutral grounds champion, and then I beat Bobby Hoffman, who was the Extreme Challenge champion, in the finals. Walk away with the grand prize.
That's a hell of a lineup.
Later that year, he headlined Super Brawl 16 against former UFC champion Dan Severn.
1 week prior to your fight, he actually gave a public statement that he will never be armbarred ever, ever.
Submitting him with an armbar in the 4th round.
Armbar in the 4th round.
And he tapped, and the beat severed his tap. The baby-faced assassin has done it.
That victory, his biggest to date, caught the attention of the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
The matchmaker of the UFC when I was there was John Peretti. And so Matt Hume already had a relationship with John Peretti from Extreme Fighting Championship. His discussions, hey, I got this kid, he's undefeated, he's beaten Dan Severn and won this tournament, beating all these other guys and so on and so forth. And they're like, okay, well, bring him in. Let's have him fight.
He debuted at UFC 28 in November 2000, stopping Gon McGee by TKO.
That guy's huge. Dan McGee is a giant human, like a very tall human.
Maybe that was the first super heavyweight fight in UFC history.
Barnett trying to finish it right here.
If he doesn't stop this, and there it is.
Yep, it is over. It is all over.
But his first setback came a few months later when Pedro Rizzo knocked him out.
This long.
Barnett bounced back with big wins, submitting Semi Schilt and finishing Bobby Hoffman.
And it's over. It's all over. And Josh Barnett reigns victorious.
Those victories set up a title shot against Randy Couture.
They were going to have him fight someone else. Yeah, I got a call, and then on 8 weeks' notice, they give me a ring and ask me if I'll do it. And I said, yeah. I trained as hard as I possibly could. I just knew in my heart what I could bring to the table was far more than what Randy had.
At the time of the Couture fight, Barnett's UFC contract was nearing its end, and negotiations for a new, higher-paying deal were underway. A win would have secured him a lucrative new contract as the youngest heavyweight champion in UFC history. On March 22, 2002, at UFC 36, Barnett faced Couture for the heavyweight championship. At just 24 years old, Barnett overwhelmed Couture with ground and pound, forcing a second-round stoppage.
He's punching back. Seconds to Randy Couture. No. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new champion. It is over. The new champion.
I told you guys.
The baby-faced assassin.
I told
Josh
you.
Barnett.
New UFC heavyweight champion of the world.
When you won the title, I was there, but I wasn't working for the UFC. Back in the day, Josh Barnett. Back in the fucking day,
Babyface
man.
assassin with less scars and a lot less gray hair.
He became the youngest heavyweight champion in UFC history.
Youngest UFC heavyweight champion ever.
It was a great moment. Absolutely trained my ass off for something that I didn't even know was even available to me, because to my knowledge, I didn't know whether or not I was even in the hunt for the title, even though I was on a winning streak and beating top guys. I won the belt and it was an amazing moment, but a part of it felt like, well, yeah, I just felt like this is, of course I was going to win. You know, it just felt matter of fact.
I was the youngest UFC champion until John Jones, and he beat me by like 4 months.
The negotiations commenced.
You know how personal things can become, the ability to come for Dana. But I can say that we were very hard negotiators. The UFC made me a good deal for back then. Matt believed we could get better at Pride. Matt wanted to test me on the open market. He felt like, well, if we got the belt, they're going to pay big money for this to get you. And there wasn't like a real WWF guy leaves with the belt to WCW or vice versa kind of situation. But in the end, none of it worked that way.
But the triumph didn't last. Later that year, the Nevada Athletic Commission announced that Barnett had tested positive for multiple anabolic steroids in his post-fight drug test, specifically boldenone, fluoxymesterone, and nandrolone.
You've taken some stuff, right?
I tested positive for anabolics in the past. Well, but I mean, the supplement market used to be way wilder than it used to be.
Just fighting was way wilder.
Fighting was way wilder. The supplement industry was way wilder. It's like back in 2002, you could still buy all this shit over the counter that by 2004 got reclassified as steroid.
In July 2002, Barnett's championship was stripped and his license was suspended for 6 months. Barnett denied knowingly using banned substances at his hearing.
You failed the drug test. How did you think the hearing for this one?
Well, it didn't go very well.
The doping controversy abruptly ended his first UFC run.
It seemed as though it wasn't even about drug testing. Flip Hamansky trying to call me and get me to like admit to things, just trying to get me to spill the beans.
At 24, he was champion of the world, and then the first UFC fighter ever stripped of a belt for doping. Dana White felt personally betrayed, especially since Barnett had just become the youngest heavyweight champion in UFC history. White was furious, saying Barnett had embarrassed the company at a time when the UFC was still fighting for legitimacy under new ownership. From that moment on, Dana made it clear he didn't trust him. With the UFC door closed, Barnett took his career overseas.
They wanted to damage me and get rid of me because I'd pissed them off so much. After that, when Matt goes to negotiate with Pride, they're offering me like a shit offer. And I'm all, you got to be kidding me. But they knew I didn't have anywhere else to go. Just it turned out I could go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, something they hadn't figured. I just joined New Japan Pro Wrestling as a pro wrestler.
Japan embraced heavyweights, and Barnett fit right in. Barnett reinvented himself in Japan, signing with Pancrase as a fighter and New Japan Pro Wrestling as a performer, launching a dual career that blended real competition with showmanship. In 2003, Barnett entered the Pancrase Openweight Grand Prix, joining directly in the final without any prior tournament bouts.
And I'm sitting back and I go, I beat the guy who was the reigning king of Pancrase in Japan, or in the UFC, Sam Schill. Well, I'd like a shot at that title again. I've already beaten whoever the title holder was, and he was the title holder when I fought him. So that's a good enough argument, see what Pancrase says. And all of a sudden, we actually get into negotiations and we put something together, and it's like, oh fuck, yeah, I'm gonna fight for the King of Pancrase title.
He faced Yuki Kondo and won by second round TKO, becoming the Pancrase Openweight champion in his promotional debut. That made him one of the few fighters to hold major titles in both UFC and Pancrase. At the same time, his popularity in NJPW made him a recognizable TV figure, which mattered because Pride often booked fighters who were stars both in sport and in entertainment. Soon after, he entered Pride Fighting Championships, the biggest stage in Japan.
You'd hear those drums kick in.
That shit used to give me goosebumps.
Yes. And they drop that curtain from front of everyone. Ba-boom. And it's like, Pride Fighting Championship.
His debut came against Mirko Krokop Filipovic in 2004. Barnett dislocated and fractured his shoulder in the opening exchange.
Oh, it looks like it's dislocated. You see it?
Forcing a TKO loss and months of recovery.
I dislocated my shoulder, so that took a whole year out. That took forever to recover from.
He returned in 2005 for a rematch with Krokop, but dropped a decision after 3 hard rounds. Still, Barnett stayed in the mix, and by 2006 he was a top contender again. He submitted Kazuhiro Nakamura, then entered Pride's Openweight Grand Prix. In the opening round, he submitted Alexander Emelianenko with a key lock.
And there it is. American
He advanced to the quarterfinals, where he tapped out Mark Hunt with a Kimura.
Now he's got it. Going for the Kimura. It's over. Mark Hunt has been submitted.
At Final Conflict Absolute that September, Barnett defeated Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira by split decision in the semifinal. That same night, he advanced to the finals.
I got Mirko Krokop. He had an easier fight, if you ask me. Although, he made it that way. Tore through Vanderlei. I know he's going to come after me hard.
Are you ready for this?
Ready as I'll ever be.
In the final, exhausted from 2 wars in one evening, Barnett was stopped by Krokop in the first round.
He just got hit.
Oh no. That's it.
Destroyed.
Barnett finished runner-up in one of Pride's most stacked tournaments. He closed 2006 with 2 more notable fights, a toe-hold submission win over Olympic judo champion Pavel Nastala, and a decision loss in a rematch with Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. By the end of the year, Barnett had fought the best heavyweights Pride had to offer, cementing himself as one of the sport's elite, even if Krokop remained his kryptonite.
Hardest leg kicks you've ever felt?
Krokop.
Krokop? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
When Pride collapsed in 2007, Barnett avoided the UFC, determined to chase a fight with Fedor Emelianenko.
And I'm aiming for one man. Fyodor, you're already dead.
He kept active in Japan, submitting Hidehiko Yoshida in Sengoku and beating Jeff Monson. In 2008, he signed with Affliction, the flashy new promotion looking to rival the UFC.
But I was a part of the formation of Affliction MMA from the first show. I actually booked some of the fights that are on that card, and some of the structure and production of that came from me. And athletes that were brought to that show came from me. I said, well, let's stay here in Southern California and lock this area down, and UFC can have Vegas. There's no reason for us to be in their territory.
In his debut, Barnett avenged his loss to Pedro Risso with a brutal knockout.
Fight. Josh Barnett. Pedro Rizzo is out. Huge looping left hand.
He followed it with a submission win over Gilbert Yvel, setting up a dream main event, Barnett versus Fedor, scheduled for August 2009.
2 skilled guys, ranked number 1, number 2.
But 10 days before the fight, disaster struck. Barnett failed a California drug test for anabolic steroids.
With California, I had an issue with what I believe ultimately to be a contamination. And once that whole process was such a motherfuck, like, this is never going to happen again. So every supplement lot that I took, I would always keep bits of it behind.
So it was just some weird contamination, which does happen again.
It just seemed like like a fluke and just such a simple supplement in any case, a one ingredient deal.
His license was denied, the Fedor fight was canceled, and Affliction folded overnight. For the second time in his career, a failed test had derailed everything.
Now, according to my sources close to Fedor and Affliction, the California State Athletic Commission will announce today that the heavyweight has tested positive for steroids and will not be licensed to fight in the state. Now, this is the second positive test for Barnett and will most likely come with a year's suspension and probably ruin his career. Now, this could be the last nail in the coffin of Affliction's fight promotion.
Barnett kept competing, fighting in dream and smaller promotions, including a Kimura win over Mighty Mo.
Man, here comes the Kimura, as we anticipated.
And a TKO in Australia.
These right hands and
Did you ever get paid for that fight?
I got paid 40% of what I'm owed. Tried to track that son of a bitch down multiple times.
But the missed chance to face Fedor. The fight he had chased for years became one of the great what-ifs in MMA history.
Getting that fight with Fyodor, I mean, that's...
Would you feel kind of incomplete if you don't make it happen?
It would really suck.
By 2010, Barnett signed with Strikeforce and entered its heavyweight Grand Prix.
Josh Barnett is going to be fighting up soon in Strikeforce. He's been known to have a lot of steroid problems. Do you think he's going to be cleared to fight in any of the states?
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. We'll see. I'm not a regulator, but I'm not a big Josh Barnett fan. I think he's bad for the sport. All the shit that comes out of his mouth is stupid, and I'm not a fan.
Is that the main reason we're not going to see Josh Barnett ever in the UFC?
You'll never see him in the UFC, ever.
I interviewed Dana White recently, which a lot of people have seen, hopefully. Dana, I'd asked about you, in fact, about what he thought about you passing any drug tests and if you'd be fighting in the UFC again. He basically said, we're going to pass the test, and that's why you're not ever going to be back in the UFC. Do you have any response to those comments?
Oh, no, I'll definitely pass the test. You know, Dana White's stature has changed quite a bit over the years from a boxer size instructor. I'd be interested to see Dana White pass some drug tests. Yeah, his shoulders got quite a bit bigger, you know, kind of wider, prone to angry outbursts. Yeah, I'll pass every test. I've already passed tests. Since then, I've passed tests before then. You know, if he wants, I can come pee in his mouth and he can tell me if he can taste any Dianabol on it or anything like that.
I mean, there's guys out there, and I'll say it, Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett tested positive 3 times, and this guy denies it every time. Everybody's a liar but him, and that's why Josh Barnett isn't and never will be in the UFC. You know, this isn't the kind of guy that I respect or want to do business with.
He dominated Brett Rogers.
Barnett's got to get to the side. And he turns.
Then submitted Sergey Kharitonov to reach the final.
For the trip, and gets it.
Drop that head down lower, job of flattening
Catch
up.
Wrestling 101. Barnett advances to the final. It's Barnett versus Cormier.
In May 2012, he faced the unbeaten Daniel Cormier. Over 5 rounds, Cormier's speed and wrestling carried the fight, handing Barnett a unanimous decision loss. Still, Barnett finished runner-up in yet another stacked tournament. In 2013, when Strikeforce folded and the UFC absorbed most of its roster, Barnett was a free agent and had to negotiate his own return.
What are you going to do next? Your contract is up. Dana White hasn't said whether or not you're coming over. You haven't said thus yet whether or not you want to go over to the UFC. What does Josh Barnett want to do next?
I want to fight, though, and UFC has a fantastic lineup of people that I could go out there and compete against. It's just up to the, whoever wants to pay my price.
And can you give us a quick comment on Josh Barnett as he signed with UFC yet? Is that in the works right now?
He has not, and we'll see what happens. I think we will. We'll see how it goes.
Eventually striking a new deal that brought him back to the octagon after more than a decade away. When Strikeforce folded, Barnett returned to the UFC in 2013 after more than a decade away.
I think it's really just all a matter of how it lined up business-wise for both parties. I don't really have any doubts that my UFC run here is going to have any Dana White, Josh Barnett, cataclysmic battles. I think that this is the opportunity to really shine at this point.
His comeback fight was a statement, a first-round TKO over former champion Frank Mir.
Here in the clinch here. Oh, there's a knee. It's it. And it is all over.
But just months later, he suffered a brutal knockout loss to Travis Brown.
He's got to look out for these elbows.
Those are nasty.
He's out.
After a long layoff, Barnett returned in 2015 to headline in Japan, beating Roy Nelson by unanimous decision in a grueling 5-round battle. He then lost to Ben Rothwell by submission in 2016, before bouncing back to submit Andrei Arlovsky later that year. That win in Hamburg would be Barnett's final UFC fight, and the last official victory of his MMA career. Just months after beating Andrei Arlovsky in 2016, Barnett's career hit another wall. He tested positive in an out-of-competition USADA test for the banned substance Ostarine.
The very last test I took right before retiring, oh, you're flagged. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
December of 2017, USADA said that you were provisionally suspended because you failed an out-of-competition drug test.
Correct. Given his history of failed tests, it looked like the end. But Barnett refused to back down. He insisted he hadn't intentionally used anything, pointing to contaminated supplements. What followed was a 15-month battle with USADA.
You then found out that it was due to a contaminated supplement.
Yep.
You essentially went through arbitration.
Yep.
Arbitration took an ungodly amount of time.
Yes.
What was it, 18 months?
Yeah, they wanted to, even after having all the full results, blind testing on the same supplement, unopened, bought on their own, having everything proven to them, they still wanted to put the hammer on me.
Wow.
And I just refused. I refused. I would not accept any of their sanctions, any of their punishments. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to take guilt and fault for this. This is ridiculous. You know, I understand the intent of clean sport 100%, but this is beyond that. This is trying to make oneself look capable and useful by how much they punish.
In 2018, an independent arbitrator agreed with him, ruling that the result came from a tainted product. Barnett received only a public reprimand, making him the first UFC fighter to successfully overturn a USADA sanction.
I had to take them all the way to the very end, then go to arbitration, paying my own money, mind you, taking my court all the way as far as we could go, and winning, beating them out.
Completely exonerated.
Yes.
Incredible. It was an incredible statement. Like they said, you did not cheat, you did not knowingly cheat, you are a clean athlete, all this stuff and more. But you were on the sidelines for a very long time.
Yes, for a very long time.
Like almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Still, the damage was done. Barnett said he had lost trust in the system, calling the process backwards and unfair.
I lost 18 months of my entire career from USADA trying to fuck me over when they knew exactly what the truth was. And I had done all of their stuff to the Olympic level to have things tested, to have things verified under other experts that they even employed, and they still were set to fuck me over.
Did you beat them in court as
I
well?
did. So at the end of the day, fuck USADA, go fuck off, fuck yourselves, burn.
That summer, he asked for and was granted his release from the UFC. He walked away with a record of 35 wins and 8 losses, spanning 2 decades at the top level. In 2019, Barnett signed with Bellator MMA, aiming to restart his career at 42 years old.
What is that? Can I read that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, this is incredible. What? Well, right here it says Bellator Sport Worldwide, Scott Coker, March 31st. So that was yesterday, 2019. There's your signature.
Yeah.
It's right here. Is this your Bellator contract? Have you signed with Bellator right here on the show?
I think I just might have done that. Yeah.
What?
His debut was set against Ronnie Marks in Hawaii, but on fight night, Barnett fell violently ill and was pulled from the card.
Today was a travesty, and you won't find anybody more disappointed than me. I woke up in the middle of the night with chills and fevers, aches and pains, kidneys. Feel like someone's been hitting them for 12 rounds. And I've taken every allowable medication to try and get me up to snuff to be able to get to the cage. I've never been known for one to back out of fights or to not show up. Not only is this embarrassing for me, but it's like some sort of a weird nightmare.
Months later, the rematch was booked in Connecticut, only for Barnett to fail a medical requirement during fight week.
As far as medicals are concerned, there's still a aspect of discretion, which can be entirely subjective. And they just decided to one thing they agreed upon to then go back and take it away. And so that's just the way it is.
The bout was canceled again, and he never fought for Bellator. Not ready to call it quits, Barnett tried something new. In October 2020, he stepped into a bare-knuckle fight in Poland against former KSW champion Marcin Rojalski. It was brutal, but Barnett's experience showed. After 2 rounds, Rojalski's corner stopped the fight, giving Barnett a TKO win in his only bare-knuckle appearance. That victory would be the last time fans saw him in true combat.
So MMA-wise, are you officially retired? Are you done in the world?
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm over it. I'm done.
His fighting days were over. After stepping away from active competition, Barnett remained immersed in the world of combat sports. He coached fighters at Eric Paulson's CSW gym, passing on the old-school catch wrestling style that defined him. He also became a commentator for New Japan Pro Wrestling, blending his knowledge of fighting with the theatrics of pro wrestling. Barnett even created his own promotion, Bloodsport, a hybrid of MMA and professional wrestling contested in a no-ropes ring with knockout or submission-only rules. It was the perfect showcase for his love of catch wrestling and gritty realism.
The easiest way to describe Bloodsport is it's the hardest hitting event in all of professional wrestling, and that's a fact. But also, it is the purest, most raw form of professional wrestling in the world.
Outside the cage, fans came to know Barnett as a personality as much as a fighter. A proud metalhead, he was often seen in heavy band t-shirts, and he openly shared his love of tabletop games like Warhammer and Magic: The Gathering.
I started playing Magic when it first came out. I've been called the world's strongest nerd. I don't feel any shame in saying that I play role-playing games. I read comic books. I watch anime.
Barnett's career was a mix of glory and controversy. He became the youngest UFC heavyweight champion at 24, won titles in Pancrase, reached tournament finals in Pride and Strikeforce, and fought nearly every major heavyweight of his era. But he was also the first UFC champion stripped for doping, failed multiple tests, and missed out on fights that could have defined him.
Josh was a victim and Josh was innocent. I think it's important that we understand that. He lost a year of his career. Those headlines don't go away. Those Google searches don't go away.
You think you'll ever be in the UFC Hall of Fame?
No, I don't think so. There's too much history maybe between all of us, and who knows, but I just don't ever see that happening.
Through it all, he stayed unapologetically himself, blunt, tough, and deeply rooted in the fighting arts.
Everybody in the world, whether you like Josh Barnett or you don't, you got to respect him.
For some, he'll always be remembered for the scandals. For others, he's a pioneer who carried the catch wrestling torch into modern MMA. Josh Barnett's story is one of contradictions. A man whose career spanned decades, promotions, and continents, and who lived up to the name he carried with pride, the War Master.